Hello, everyone. This is Stacy Kellums, and I want to thank you for being on today's training call. I've got a very special guest on today's training call. His name is Phill, and he lives right here in my hometown of Austin, Texas. And I want to tell you a little bit about Phill. He's one of the most successful real estate investors that I know, and that's saying a lot because I know a lot of real estate investors. He's been a full-time real estate investor since December of 2003, and since December of 2003, Phill has done over 1,200 deals. It's pretty amazing if you do the math. He's created a brand new program that he was going to talk to you about today, and it's called the Assignment of Mortgage Payment System, or AMPS for short. I'll say that again. It's called the Assignment of Mortgage Payment System. It's called AMPS for short, and it's the absolute perfect investing strategy for today's market that we're in right now. And he's going to tell you all about it, and we're going to answer all your questions at the end of the call. In fact, we are actually going to have a Q&A session at the very end of the webinar, so be sure to stay on the call till the very end, and we'll answer all of your questions. And as a matter of fact, while you're thinking about it right now, why don't you go ahead and grab a pen and a piece of paper and get ready to take some serious notes, because Phill is going to share with you some strategies that he's using right now in today's current market that is allowing him and his students to make massive profits, anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 per deal is what they're making on average. And he's going to tell you all about it. So go and get a pen and paper right now so that you can take lots of notes. Phil's going to tell you the two most important things about AMPS, and that is that with AMPS, what you need to do, all you need to do, is find sellers who have little or no equity, or even have negative equity, meaning they're upside down in their homes. Now, think about that for a second. Those are the easiest sellers in the world to find. Everybody's upside down in their home right now. Nobody has any equity. And so you can literally throw a rock in any direction and find one of these AMPS houses, okay? So that's step number one. Step number two, then, is all you have to do is find a buyer who is having trouble getting a loan and can't get a loan because of today's tight lending environment. Now think about that for a second. You can pretty much throw a rock and hit just about anybody walking down the street because nobody can get a loan right now either. So you can pretty much pick any house on the planet you want to do these AMPS deals with, and you can find any person who's looking for a house that can't get a loan. Those people are everywhere, and they're going to be your buyers. So you have literally an unlimited supply of homes and buyers. It's the absolute perfect strategy for today's market environment. And Phil's going to share all his tips and strategies and tricks and all the stuff that his students are doing. Like I said, his students are currently making between $6,000 and $12,000 per deal on these AMPS deals, okay? And the great part is you never have to buy anything and you never have to sell anything, okay? You're not buying a house and you're not selling a house. So all you have to do is match the buyers with the sellers, and you'll make an average of between $6,000 and $12,000 every time you do this. Now, the question just becomes then, how many times a month can you do that? Well, you only need to do it once a month to probably make more than you're currently making in your JOB if you've got a job. But if you do it twice a month, think about that. Think if you were making $6,000 two times a month on these AMPS deals, and you could do that easily in your sleep. So you'd be making $12,000 a month. That's a lot of money. Still have some students who are making as much as $40,000 and $50,000 a month doing these AMPS deals. So again, if you're just now joining me, I've got my good friend Phill Grove, who lives right here in my hometown of Austin, Texas, on the line today. And Phill is going to share with you a strategy that he calls AMPS. It stands for the Assignment of Mortgage Payments System. I want you to get a pen and paper right now so that you can take lots of notes, all right, because you are going to learn a lot. Now, Phill didn't stop there with just creating this system. He's gone on and he's made it perfect. He's done all the hard work for you. He's done all the heavy lifting for you. Phill has even arranged a nationwide network of over 200 attorneys and closing resources for you in all 50 states and Canada. So Phill is not only going to show you how to do these deals, he's going to give you a list of 200 attorneys that will close your AMPS deals for you, okay? And he even has attorneys in Canada who will do this. So this does actually work in Canada if you're one of our Canadian students who's on the line today. So, again, if you're just now joining me, I've got my good friend Phill Grove from Austin, Texas. He's been a full-time real estate investor since December of 2003. He's done over 1,200 deals since that time. He's one of the most successful real estate investors I know. And he has created a strategy that works right now in today's market. He and his students are making between $6,000 and $12,000 per deal. Some of his students are making as much as $40,000 and $50,000 a month on these AMPS deals. And the great part of it is you never have to buy the house. You never have to actually sell the house. You're just bringing two people together, the buyer and the seller, and you don't even have to do that because Phill has created what he calls the REI Matcher Platform, okay? And his REI Matcher Platform actually brings the buyers and the sellers together for you. And so literally all you have to do is cash your check, okay? So it's done all the work for you. I'm serious. It's as easy as it sounds, and it is not too good to be true. You're going to want to take lots of notes. Get a pen and paper right now, and get ready to be blown away by AMPS. And again, AMPS stands for the Assignment of Mortgage Payment System. So grab your pen and paper, and again, I want to welcome Phill. And Phill, thanks so much, and welcome to today's call.
Well, thank you for that very warm welcome. Let me go ahead and get into the presentation. We've got a lot to cover today. And I call my presentation Cutting Edge Post-Bubble Real Estate Investing. And as we go through it, I think it's going to be very apparent why we call it that. The markets have aligned in a very unique way. The stars have aligned in a very unique way. Things that used to work don't work anymore. And things that didn't make sense yesterday make a lot of sense today. So we're going to be talking about how to invest right now in the market that we're in today. So why am I here? Well, over the next 90 minutes, I'm going to tell you how to sell unsellable houses to unloanable buyers. And I never get tired of saying that. It's kind of a catchy phrase. And as we go through this, you're going to see that's precisely what we're talking about. I'm going to share a strategy with you to make money fast and without money, credit, underwriting, approvals, inspections, repair calculations, research. You don't need private money, hard money, surveys, loan docs, cash buyers, or even sellers with any equity. And you can do this strategy from anywhere, and I'm going to talk about tools, training, and systems that allow you to do this. And I'm going to prove that you can do this by showing you how to do this. If you follow these steps, you can learn how to make anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 or more per deal and use systems and tools to be able to do multiple deals per month, specifically in today's post-bubble real estate market. And you're going to do all this while solving the biggest problem the real estate market has faced in 80 years. So hopefully you are going to find this pretty darn interesting. I know that I do. So who am I anyway? Well, obviously the name is Phill Grove. Moved to Texas in the mid-90s. My background is actually electrical engineering. I had a 16-year high-tech career, and then in 2003 I burned out and needed to find something else to do with my life. I started becoming a real estate investor on December 15, 2003. Bought my first house that day, and luckily I made a little money on it, and I went on to do over 1,000 deals. In 2008, the market shifted, however, and I hit a wall, pretty much like everybody else in the real estate business. Old strategies no longer worked, and I studied the problem and I studied the market, and I came up with a very novel solution, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is my why. Why did I get into real estate? Well, I wanted a better life for myself and my family. This is my lovely wife and partner, Shanoa, also a real estate investor, a very good one, by the way, and a super smart cookie. She's a real estate broker as well, and a Rice MBA, and she's my partner in all of these activities. And of course, our little boy, Zilker, and I always like to put pictures of him in my presentation just as documented evidence that of the 6 billion people born of this planet, the single best looking human being ever born was born in Austin, Texas, a little over 2 years ago, and there's my proof. And he's in the Harvard class of 2027, by the way. Alrighty, so a little bit about my real estate background. I've been a real estate investor since December 15, 2003, and my biggest claim to fame is I completed over 1,000 short sales and generated a few $1,000,000 in profits with that. Completed over 100 renovation projects, participated in somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million in real estate transactions. Obviously, when you're buying and selling real estate, those numbers really rack up fast. My biggest claim to fame, I measure my personal success in terms of wealth, and I've acquired a portfolio of mostly rental properties that's about $10 million worth of properties that I only owe about a little over $4 million on, and that's contributed over $4.5 million to my net worth. Partnered on over 100 renovations, helped establish Tex REIA to promote ethical investing standards and lobby for the fair treatment of investors in the state of Texas. President of the largest real estate club in Central Texas, taught and coached thousands of investors since 2008. Now, teaching real estate is relatively new to me, but if you do something and you do it well and you do a lot of it, a lot of people start to ask you, how do you do that? And you kind of naturally get to stand in front of rooms and talk to people about it, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And all of my training is really focused on the success of my students. In other words, my brand is no more powerful than the success of the students that have learned from me and been able to go out and make money and successfully implement the strategies. And I'm proud to say that, if you go online, you'll see literally hundreds and hundreds of videos and testimonials and stories from students who've learned how to invest in real estate from me and gone out and been successful at it. All of my businesses are Better Business Bureau accredited with an A+ rating. It's actually pretty unusual in this business. So I know a little bit about real estate. And I'm going to share with you a great idea, okay? A great idea on investing with real estate. And this is an idea on how to make money with no money, fast, and risk-free, okay? All you have to do is find properties with no equity. Obviously, the most common properties in the world, all you have to do is find buyers that can't get loans. These are the most common buyers that you're going to find. You can use this strategy and implement it from anywhere in the world. And oh yeah, in case you missed it, it's fast. So that's a great idea. I think you'll agree. But first, just to put things into perspective, I'm actually going to first share with you a terrible idea. So I'm going to first share a terrible idea. And this idea was actually implemented by a friend of mine. His name is Sasha. He's from Uzbekistan. And he's an entrepreneur. In fact, he reads Entrepreneur magazine in Uzbekistan. But apparently in Uzbekistan, when they get the magazine, they just translate it into Uzbekistanese. And the translations aren't always very good. And so sometimes they get things a little off. So Sasha is reading the magazine, and somehow he decides that the most lucrative entrepreneurial business to go into is the hair salon business. I'm not sure how he got that idea. But anyway, he decides he's going to open up a hair salon. And there's Sasha in the picture there. So Sasha first orders some signage for his salon, and oh my, there's that language problem again. He got some of the signage a little wrong, and then he ordered some special equipment. I think we ordered the wrong equipment for our salon as well. And then he went ahead and got a consultant to help him come up with a name for the business. And, well, oh my. I think we would all have to agree that this is a terrible idea. In fact, of all of the ideas I've ever seen, this has got to be about as bad of an idea as I have seen. So, like most terrible ideas, this is what happened to Sasha. He didn't make any money, and his business was doing very, very poorly. But something interesting kind of happened to Sasha. He was actually driving around, and he stumbled upon a prison that had this giant waiting room in the front of it where they were processing all the prisoners. And he goes up to talk to the guard, and he says, "What in the world are all these people doing here?" And the guard says, "Well, all of these people are waiting to be processed, and then they will be drawn and quartered." Oh my goodness. All of these people are going to be drawn and quartered. Well, that's pretty horrible. I mean, they're going to, pull them apart, and oh my gosh, that's about as painful and terrible a way to go as you can possibly go. But Sasha gets an idea when he sees this, and what Sasha decides to do is set up his salon right outside of that waiting room. And after he does that, wouldn't you know it, he's got customers lined up all the way down the street. So, there's a moral to this story. Obviously, this is a pretty ridiculous story. But what's the point? What's the moral of the story? Well, sometimes a terrible idea is still the least worst option, which of course is exactly the same as the best option. In other words, when all these people were facing the prospect of being drawn and quartered, and Sasha ended up offering them a quick alternative, they all lined up to take his alternative. So we couldn't have imagined a minute ago that Sasha's crazy idea would have been any way in the world successful. But if you think about it, if you had 50 million people in that waiting room at $20 a head, this least worst option would be worth $1 billion. Well, obviously that's probably not going to happen, but I'll tell you what would happen. How would you like to find a least worst option and 50 million people with a problem? Because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this presentation. I'm going to introduce you to 50 million people with a problem, and I'm going to give you my unique solution, which is the best solution that they will get. And you can offer them this solution not for $20 a head, but for thousands of dollars per person. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And what's the problem? Well, welcome to the Great Recession, the great post-real estate bubble recession. Let me sum this thing up for us. Home values are down about 32%, and because that, the equity in homes is mostly gone, and sellers literally can't afford to sell their homes. New lending is down even more, 42.5%. Buyers can't get financing. Nobody has a job. The unemployment rate, depending on how you measure it, which day, is somewhere around 9%. The government is printing money. But remember, the biggest opportunities in history exist for those that solve the biggest problem during the biggest times of need. And I say, don't miss this. How would you like to get in on a ground floor opportunity to solve the biggest financial problem in history? Because that's what we're talking about here. Well, let me show you a few slides that kind of summarize the Great Recession. This is lost wealth. This is essentially the real estate bubble. Real estate prices have gone up, forever. And from 2002 to 2007, prices started spiking up at an unprecedented rate because of subprime lending. And then in 2008, the bubble burst and prices came crashing down. And in the correction, we lost 6.7 trillion, that's trillion with a T, dollars worth of wealth. That's about 49% of all equity. So $6.7 trillion, to put that into perspective, the total gross domestic product of the United States, that's the sum of all goods and products of the USA, is 14 trillion. We lost almost half of the GDP in one bold correction. On this chart, I'm showing the top 20 real estate markets. This is Case-Shiller data, and it's just another way of looking at the bubble. From 2002 to 2007, prices went up, and then from 08 to really the end of '09, prices crashed down. And I also like to superimpose kind of this other set of dotted lines on top of it. Prices have come down. We have had a correction, and we have had a correction in a big, big way. In fact, if you take a look at where prices are today, they are, at or in many cases below where they should have and would have been had we never had a bubble at all. So we've had a major, major correction. The market bottomed at the end of Q3 '09, and as you can see in all those top 20 markets, they've kind of been bouncing along the bottom ever since. Non-performing loans, 26% of all subprime loans are not current. They're not performing. 30, 60, 90 days later, already in foreclosure. And this chart shows monthly foreclosure filings. And this is very volatile data. From one month to the next, the numbers jump around a tremendous amount. It's also a lagging indicator. But it looks like that we may have seen the worst of it in terms of foreclosure filings, although there's a lot of volatility and a lot of things that affect these numbers. So we can only hope that we're past the worst of it in terms of foreclosure filings. And then finally, new and existing single-family home sales. If you take a look, you'll see that new homes are down 79% from the peak. And that's pretty much because nobody's building houses anymore because there's no capital available to do so. Existing single-family home sales are down about 35%. And if you see and take a look at the total number of houses that are actually selling, we're selling houses at the volume level that we were back in 1995. So there's just not that much stuff going on. There's just not that many houses selling, simply mostly because there's just not enough lending available to support the number of houses that might otherwise be sold. So when does all this kind of get back to normal? Well, it depends. I mean, we have a lot of inventory, anywhere from 9 to 12 million units or homes or properties that need to be cleared out of inventory. And we don't know exactly how many there are to sell because there's also something called shadow inventory, inventory that's being held off the market by the banks as they foreclose on it. But at the current level or number of units that we're selling each year, which is about 5.5 million, it's going to take somewhere between 2013 and 2014 at the rate we're going before the market feels like anything that you might call normal again. So to summarize, sellers can't sell, buyers can't buy, and the Great Recession drags on. And more than anything else, what I blame for the Great Recession is I blame lending. It was the idea of getting us into subprime loans that created the bubble and the burst of the bubble and put us into the mess we're in today. So let's talk about lending for a few minutes. Going back to 2005, as best I could remember, this was the loan application process. Essentially, they held a mirror under your nose, and if they saw fog, you got a loan. And basically, anybody could get a loan. In fact, if you didn't want to get a loan yourself, you could bring your dog over to the bank, and even your dog could get a loan. Now, jumping ahead to 2011, what is the lending process today? Well, to be honest with you, I haven't figured out exactly how the lending application process works, but as best I can determine, it's something like this. If you can get from one end of a swimming pool to the other without actually getting wet, then you can get a loan. It's become very difficult to get loans. Let me tell you a true story. This is a crazy story. I'm working with a guy with $20 million in the bank. So he's got $20 million in the bank, and the guy owns 2 homes free and clear. And he wants to buy another home. He's got perfect credit, and he's willing to put $250,000 cash down so he can buy $1 million home. I am on the phone when the underwriter says, "Sir, I'm sorry, you're not qualified for this mortgage." I almost fell off my chair. We said, "What in the world? Why would we not be qualified for the mortgage?" And the underwriter said, I see looking at your tax returns that you don't have a job. How do you intend to make the payment on this mortgage? I mean, that's the craziest thing ever said. We said, well, write a check. Sir, we do not do stated income loans. We only loan money to people that have W-2 income. That's how crazy it's gotten. So I actually told this story to a friend of mine, George Ross, who's Donald Trump's right-hand man, and I've been doing some business with George, and George actually at breakfast meeting told me his story to trump my story. And his story is he's working with a guy that wants to buy a piece of property, a lot in New York City for $5 million. And it's a great deal at $5 million. And the buyer wants to put 80% down. He wants to put $4 million down and get a loan for $1 million. So he goes to the bank to get his loan, and the lender basically says, I'm sorry, you're not qualified for the loan. So George called up the banker and said, what in the world? You won't give a guy a loan that's putting 80% down? And the banker said to George, George, nobody in this environment gets fired for saying no to a loan. But if I give this guy a loan and anything goes wrong, I'm going to end up with that, 10% or whatever of the population that's out of work. So that's what's going on in the lending environment. And frankly, now I'm pissed off. This has screwed up my business. I can't flip houses. I can't get a loan. The banks are ruining the country. These guys got us into this trouble with this crazy idea of giving zero-down subprime loans to people who had no business getting loans. Now we're in trouble. Lending's frozen. And instead of letting these banks go out of business, we bailed them out and we put them in charge of the recovery. Okay? And here we are. Now, let me talk about my business and how this has affected my business. These are the deals that made me rich. These are the deals I did when I became a real estate investor. I did short sales, assignments, renovations. I did flips. I did wholesaling. I did sub-twos that became rentals. I bought standard renovation properties. And between 2003 and 2008, I got a property under contract every 39 and a half hours. And all of those deals made me a lot of money. And life was good. In fact, from 2003 to 2007, it was the perfect market to be a real estate investor. It was easy to find broke motivated sellers. It was easy to find buyers with loans. It was easy to pick up equity deals. And it was easy to flip houses. And then in 2008, the real estate market died. And if you think about it, and if you look back, many investors, gurus, realtors all went toes up. But not me, because I was a student of the market, I studied the problem, came up with a very novel solution. But let's talk about the death of the real estate investing business. And the people who have been in this business for a while are going to relate very well to this. These are the strategies that I use to invest in real estate. I do wholesaling, I buy properties subject to, I do short sales, I do owner financing. And I know we have different levels of expertise on this call, so I'm going to take a minute and just explain how each of these different strategies work. Wholesaling is where you get a property under contract and then you assign the contract to another buyer in exchange for a fee. You can make $500 to $5,000 on a little deal, $10,000 to $25,000 on a medium deal, $25,000 or more on a large deal. And it's a low-risk strategy. You're simply getting properties under contract. If you can't find somebody to assign your contracts to, you terminate your contract. And the benefit of wholesaling is fast cash. You get paid at the front of the deal. You don't have to actually buy the house yourself or property yourself. You just get paid at the very beginning to assign your contract to somebody else. So let me draw this in a different way, in a pictorial way. You, the investor, gets a property under contract from a seller. And then you cross your name out on the contract and write in the name of another investor or buyer so that they buy the property and you get an assignment fee. When they actually execute the contract, the deed or ownership in the property transfers over to the new buyer, and they buy the property with cash or a new loan or however they want to finance the property. That's how a wholesale works. And wholesaling was great, but after 2008, what happened was my income from wholesaling dropped significantly. And the reason is because there's just very few sellers with high equity. It requires you to find properties that have a lot of equity, and we saw that 50% of home equity disappeared. It's also very hard to find buyers that are still around that have cash. Okay, well, how else can we make money in real estate? Well, we can buy properties subject to. Subject to has been a strategy that's been around for years, and what you do is you can buy properties with as little as no money at all by agreeing to make the mortgage payment on the seller's mortgage in exchange for the deed. Your exit strategy is to hold on to the property as a rental property and then eventually sell it and make your profit. It's a medium risk strategy. You have a moral and or legal obligation to keep paying the seller's mortgage. But the real benefit of buying subject to is it's a no money strategy. It allows you to buy properties with no cash out of pocket. We like no money strategies because they're infinitely scalable. In other words, you can do as many as you want because you're not limited by how much money you actually have. Now, people always ask, how does this work? Can you show me why somebody would really sell their house this way? Well, here's an example. This is actually one of my rental properties, and the house is worth $150,000. The loan's only $110,000, so there's $40,000 in equity. House rents for $1,600 a month, and the entire mortgage payment's only $1,100 a month. So the house has $500 a month of positive cash flow. Sounds like the perfect rental property, with one problem. The owner lost her job and was 4 days away from foreclosure because she continued to collect the rent, but she was not making the payments on the mortgage. So 4 days before her house went to auction, I went to her and I said, hey, if you deed the property over to me, I will catch up your payments and make your payments going forward. And she said deal, because it was a much better deal for her, much better deal than getting a foreclosure. And of course it was a better deal for the bank as well, because they didn't want to foreclose on the property. And it was a great deal for the tenants because they didn't want to get kicked out. But mostly it was a great deal for me because I got this beautiful $150,000 property and I only owe $110 on it. It came with the loan and I'm getting $500 a month of positive cash flow. So that's how buying properties subject to works. It's a great strategy, but after 2008, once again, it's just very few sellers that are left that have a lot of equity. Okay, what's the next strategy? Let's talk about short sales. Short sales are something near and dear to my heart. I've done over 1,000 short sales, and the way a short sale works is you basically get a property under contract for less than what's owed on it. And then you flip it or do a simultaneous close or an assignment of contract to a buyer who buys it at a higher price than you get it at. You can make anywhere from $500 to $5,000 on an assignment or small referral. You can make $10,000 to $25,000 on a flip. You can make $100,000 or more on a luxury short sale. And it's a low-risk strategy. You can terminate your deal at any time if you can't get the price you want and or find somebody to sell the property to. But the real benefit of short sales is it's easy to find sellers. There's never a shortage of people that you can help with a short sale that are people that are facing foreclosure and or not able to make the payments on their loan. Now, speaking of short sales, my company is one of America's top short sale companies. We've done over 1,100 and counting. We do these all over the USA. There's a picture, I'm not going to play this video right now, but of one of my students who is doing her first short sale deal. And all of our businesses, like I said, are Better Business Bureau accredited. So I know a lot about short sales. I've done a lot of short sales. We still do a lot of short sales. And short sales work, except after 2008, every time we try to sell a short sale, there's just very few buyers that have loans, because the number of properties, the number of buyers that have loans is about the same level it was back in '95. And also the banks have just created all sorts of regulatory nightmares. You know, when you do a short sale with Bank of America, they send you a letter saying you're not allowed to resell the property for 90 days. The title companies, the lenders have seasoning rules. It's become a nightmare, and that's caused the amount of money that I've made with my short sale business to go from a lot to a little. Alrighty, well, what else is there? Well, there's owner financing. And owner financing is when you basically get a property with financing. You can either get it where the owner owns it free and clear and they agree to sell it to you with a loan, or you can get it with a subject to, and then you sell it on a wrap. And when you sell a home with owner financing, I can tell you that in general it will always sell faster and it will always sell at a premium price. And the reason for that is because the buyers are really buying these properties based on terms and not based on price. So you can make some down payment, some monthly spread, and a little bit of money when the buyer ultimately refinances. This is a medium risk strategy. You're now a subprime lender. You are now giving loans to people that can't get loans conventionally. But the real benefit of owner financing is it's easy to find buyers. There's always people that will pay a premium to get a house that comes with financing because they have no other option to get a property. But unfortunately, after 2008, there simply were not very many sellers left that have a lot of equity. So that was the death of the real estate business. And as I analyzed the market, I had an epiphany. I realized that I didn't make all that money because homes were easy to find. Homes are always easy to find. I made all that money because homes were easy to sell. That's what really changed. And it also occurred to me, there's still plenty of homes with loans. In other words, right now, the value of having a loan is greater than the value of having a home. There's plenty of homes available. There's just a shortage of loans. So let me say this one more time. The value of the loan is now greater than the value of the home. I needed to find a way to go from finding to funding. What I really needed to do was to become a lender. What I needed to do is find a way to give the market what the market wanted, loans. But the question I came up with is, great, I need to be a lender. I need to have an infinite number of loans that I can get. Where do I get $100 trillion to loan out to all these people? Well, I needed a new strategy. So what I did is I studied the time-proven benefits of the existing strategies that I had been using, and I applied them to today's market. I love to do wholesaling. Wholesaling is awesome because you get paid up front. You get the fast cash. I love buying properties subject to because it requires no money and therefore it's infinitely scalable. There's no limit to the number of deals you can do. I love to do short sales because I'm helping sellers avoid foreclosure and it's super easy to find the sellers. And finally, I love owner financing because I'm helping buyers get to buy homes and achieve the dream of home ownership, and it's super easy to find the buyers. So I needed a new strategy. I looked at these strategies, and what I did is I combined all four of them together into something that I call mortgage payment assignment. It's the answer, it's the solution, it's the strategy that solves all of the problems for today's market. So what in the world is mortgage payment assignment? Well, let me explain it, and bear with me. I'm going to explain it, in a couple of different ways. Not everybody gets it immediately, but I promise you'll get it as I go through this. Mortgage payment assignment is the sale of a home where the loan payments are assigned to a buyer in exchange for the deed, which is ownership in the home. And we use a standard master agreement to do this. Now, although virtually no loans are assumable, all payments are assignable. In other words, it's up to the lender to approve an assumption of a loan. However, anybody can make the payments on anybody else's mortgage, and anybody can assign the payments on their existing mortgage to anybody they want. And it's and as long as those payments on the loan are being made, the lender will consider it a performing loan. This is kind of like when you rent your property out. When you rent out your property, effectively the mortgage payments are being paid by the tenant. The tenant is paying the rent, and then the rent is being used to pay the mortgage. Only in a mortgage payment assignment, it's the new owner that's paying the mortgage on the old owner's mortgage. So the buyer agrees to make the payment on the seller's mortgage in exchange for ownership in the property. So mortgage payment overview, showing it in a different way. The acquisition strategy is you're buying a property subject to, only instead of actually buying it, you're simply getting it under contract with an option to terminate the contract. It takes no money and there's no risk. Your exit strategy is to assign your contract or wholesale your property to a buyer who gets to buy the property with owner financing. Typical profit, you collect a fee, $6,000 to $12,000 on an average priced house. The seller avoids foreclosure, and the buyer gets true home ownership. It's a low-risk strategy. You're essentially wholesaling a subject to deal, but what I really love about this is the benefits. It's fast cash. You get paid up front because it's wholesaling. It requires no money at all. It's super easy to find the sellers. These are simply no equity sellers that need to sell fast, and it's super easy to find the buyers. These are simply buyers that can't get loans. So let me show this in another way. You have a seller and you have an investor. So you, the investor, gets the property under contract using the standard master agreement, and the contract states that you're going to buy the property subject to the existing loan. You then assign your contract to a buyer in exchange for an assignment fee, typically $6,000 to $12,000 on an average price house. And then the buyer buys the house from the seller, so the deed and ownership of the home transfer from the seller to the buyer, and then going forward, the buyer makes the payments on the seller's underlying mortgage. So notice you just got paid $6,000 to $12,000 and you didn't actually have to buy or sell anything. So that's mortgage payment assignment. So who are the sellers that need this? Well, if you think about it, anybody with minimum, no, or negative equity needs to do this transaction. There's millions of sellers that literally can't afford to sell their home because they have no equity, and they would have to pay the closing costs and the real estate commissions and literally the negative equity. They would literally have to come to the table with potentially tens of thousands of dollars. Bubble buyers that lost their equity, people who bought before the bubble and got those zero down loans, they have no equity. Recent post-bubble bursting buyers that bought after the bubble but have no appreciation. Anybody that refinanced their home and took out their equity, just about every for sale by owner, those are people that generally try to sell their homes themselves because they have no equity and they can't afford the closing costs and commissions. Just about every overpriced home in the MLS. Basically, there's up to 50 million potential sellers that need to use this program because it's their best option. How do you find these sellers? Well, I've actually perfected 20 different marketing methods. I'll give you one example here. New home neighborhoods. Just about every new home neighborhood built after 2000, every home in those neighborhoods was sold with a zero down loan. I'm exaggerating just a little bit. 99% of those people have little, no, or negative equity, and mortgage payment assignment is their best option. So if you live in any one of those neighborhoods, guess what? There's only a couple of ways to get out. You know, in a box, in a foreclosure, or bringing $50,000 to the closing table, all of which are pretty awful options, or a mortgage payment assignment. So we can put door hangers on every home in the neighborhood, and anybody that needs to sell, we've got their best option. Who are the buyers that need this? Well, there's 59.5 million Americans that have credit scores between 300 and 639. These people can't currently get loans because all of the subprime loans are dead. There's another 23 million hardworking Americans, and I know because I'm one of them, that also can't get loans. Stated income loans are also dead. These people just want to buy a home, but they need to get financing. And what's really interesting right now is a lot of the people, most of the people that can't get loans are actually better quality borrowers than the ones that they're replacing because the lending standards have changed so much. And that's exactly the opposite of how it was during the bubble. During the bubble, when anybody could get a loan, if you were doing owner financing, the people who couldn't get loans back then were the worst of the worst of the worst borrowers. And now the borrowers are actually better than the owners. So basically, there's 83 million people that can't get loans, that can't buy any of the 115 million households in the USA. That's a lot of buyers that are taken out of the buyer pool. How do you find these buyers? Well, finding buyers is actually much, much easier even than finding sellers. And I perfected 12 different marketing methods for finding them. As an example, you can advertise in Craigslist. Craigslist is free, and if you advertise homes available with financing in Craigslist, your phone will ring off the hook. It's actually not a very good place to sell houses traditionally, but if you sell houses with owner financing, your phones will ring off the hook. We're getting at least 5 buyers with money for every seller that we get. So hopefully this is starting to make sense. There's a glut of 50 million unsellable homes and 83 million unloanable buyers. How often do you think you see these opportunities come around? My estimate is last time we saw something like this was 1929. This is what works now. What worked in 2005 when anybody could get a loan and anybody could sell a home does not work today. Mortgage payment assignment, which made no sense at all in 2005, is the only strategy that's working and working well right now. You need to be a student of the market. You need to adapt, mutate, migrate, or die. And unfortunately, what a lot of people are doing is when the market went down, they just started working harder. And essentially, if you think about it, what are they doing? They're just doing more of the same thing, hoping for different results. And we all know what that is. Okay, now is the time. This is a quote from an author who just actually came out with this book 2 weeks ago. His name is C. Siebold, and he wrote a book, How Rich People Think, and this is his quote. "This is the easiest time to become a millionaire in America that I have ever seen by far. Anyone has a chance to become a millionaire in America more right now than ever before." And he's talking also about in the Great Depression, there were more millionaires created than at any other time in history. And the reason for all this is because, people that solve the big problems get the big rewards. You want to be a millionaire, you got to go solve a problem. Right now the country has a lot of problems that are in dire need of solutions. And I think the biggest problem is the lending problem. So from all that, I say congratulations. You are now part of an investor tidal wave that is the next huge money-making opportunity, and it's mortgage payment assignment. This strategy allows motivated, no equity sellers to sell their homes and to sell homes fast. It allows buyers that can't get loans to buy homes and to buy them fast. It's fast, it's easy, and it solves the fundamental problems of today's market, and not very many real estate professionals have figured this out yet. Okay, let me go ahead and answer some questions that I know people usually have at this point. Wow, that's amazing. That sounds really interesting. Is this legal? Can you really do this? Well, there are various rules and legislation and clauses that regulate these transactions. I'll give you a couple of examples of them. The Mortgage Assistance Relief Services, MARS rule. Actually, the FTC regulates how you can advertise and offer these services. The Secure and Fair Enforcement for Mortgage Licensing Act, or the SAFE Act, actually legislates how you can originate loans using these strategies. And the due on sales clause is a clause in just about every lender's note that regulates what happens when a deed transfers. To remain 100% legal, you must disclose, disclaim, and comply with these regulations. And the good news is we've set up an extensive legal network and a set of paperwork and procedures to allow you to do this legally in all 50 states. So I'm going to elaborate and explain that in more detail a little later. I also like to get asked the question, well, what else? Can you do this with underwater houses? Well, as it turns out, when you sell a house with owner financing, it typically will sell for a premium. How much of a premium really depends on the buyer. It's not uncommon at all for a buyer to buy a house that's 10 or 20% underwater. What if the buyer defaults? Well, what if the buyer defaults? If the buyer defaults, the house goes back to the seller, and the seller is essentially exactly back where they started. They've got a house that they can't afford, that they don't want, that they need to sell. And what are they going to do? Well, they're probably going to call you. You're going to find another buyer. Buyers are easier to find than sellers, and frankly, you get paid again. Do the buyers and sellers understand the risks and rewards of this? Yeah, and we're going to explain that in more detail, but it's essential when you close these deals that you close these with law firms and the proper disclosures so that everybody knows exactly what the risks and rewards are of these programs. Do I have any liability here? Well, mostly you're a wholesaler. You're not actually buying or selling the property. You're simply selling your interest in the property, or maybe more accurately, I always suggest that my students have their LLC do that for them. But the biggest question that I get is, why in the world would a seller want to do this? Why in the world would somebody sell their house this way? And the answer is simple. The same reason anybody does anything, because it's their best option, or maybe I could say is their least worst option, but least worst option by far. Let me explain what I'm talking about. When we talk to sellers, we essentially explain their options using something we call the least worst close. And I'm going to put a picture of an actual deal that I did in Austin, Texas recently, and I'm going to walk through this deal to explain how we closed this and explain it to the seller. So this is a property, and its fair market value is about $150,000. Now, this process, this whole thing works whether it's $1 million home or a $50,000 home. You can scale these numbers up or down. It's not going to make any difference at all. This house is worth $150,000. The owner owed about $155,000. And when you go to sell this house, you have to pay closing costs. You have to pay real estate commissions. Nowadays, you have to buy and pay some buyer's commissions. So it costs about 10% of the sales price of a house to sell that house. So when we talk to these sellers, and these are the most common sellers in America, by the way, this is how the conversation goes. Well, you've got some different options here. I know you want to sell your house fast. The fastest way to sell your house is to a cash buyer. I'm a cash buyer. Typically, when you sell your house for cash, it will sell for up to 70% of the fair market value, minus the cost of repairs. Let's assume, for this sake of argument, this house has no repairs at all. It's a perfect house. Why 70%? Well, cash buyers, have about 15% overhead when they flip a house, and they expect to make a 15% profit margin. So the most that a cash offer would offer, a cash buyer or investor would offer for your house would be $105,000. Now the good news is, when you sell your house to a cash buyer, it does not negatively affect your credit, and it's fast. You can sell it in a week or two. But the bad news is, when you go to sell this house, because you owe $155,000 and the offer is only $105,000, you're going to have to bring $50,000 to the closing table. And I guarantee, less than 1% of sellers is going to have and or be interested in bringing $50,000 to the closing table. So at that point they say, well, that's not going to work. What else do you got? Well, you can list your home. Now, I'm not a realtor, but my wife's a realtor, and I know and work with several realtors, and I can surely recommend a realtor to you. The good news is, when you sell your house with a realtor, it will eventually sell for approximately 100% of the fair market value, which for your home is $150,000. When you sell it traditionally, there's no negative hit on your credit. However, across the United States, depending on where you look, there's anywhere from 6 to 12 months of inventory, and that's about how long it takes to sell a house. And because you owe $155,000 and the house is only worth $150,000, and it's going to cost about $15,000 in commissions and closing costs, you're going to have to bring $20,000 to the table. So wait 6 to 12 months and bring $20,000 to the table. Well, that's not a very good option either. They probably don't have the money and can't afford to wait, so they're going to say, well, what else can I do? Well, you can do a short sale. I've done over 1,000 short sales and can certainly help you with your short sale. Typically, when a house sells through a short sale, usually they sell for about 90% of fair market value. Could be more, could be less, really doesn't make any difference at all. So your offer might be $130,000, but the problem with a short sale is it affects your credit. In fact, it's a pretty big hit on your credit. In fact, right now, because there's so few buyers that actually have loans, more than 50% of short sales are actually ending up in foreclosure. In other words, the lenders either deny the short sale or they only allow you so much time to sell it at whatever price they agree to, and you simply can't find a buyer within that time frame. The other problem with a short sale is it also takes a long time, typically 6 to 12 months or more. But the good news is you don't have to bring any money to the table. Well, okay, a short sale, that's maybe an idea. What else do you got? Well, you can do a foreclosure. Foreclosure, you simply hand the property back to the lender. But I got to tell you, foreclosure is the atomic bomb of credit scars. It's the one that cuts the deepest and lasts the longest. It's a 10-year nightmare that starts with the, sheriff dragging you and your family and everything you own out into the curb. It's the IRS potentially garnishing your wages because of a 1099 issued for the full amount or up to the full amount of the loan. It's creditors calling you day and night because of a deficiency judgment that the lender got against you. It's 10 years of not being able to buy a home, not being able to buy a car, not being able to get credit cards, maybe even not being able to get certain jobs and other things. So it's a pretty horrendous option that we would strongly recommend. I guess the good news is it only takes 3 to 6 months and it doesn't cost you anything. But being the atomic bomb of credit scars and a 10-year nightmare, I'd really strongly recommend that you don't do a foreclosure. And oh yeah, just to remind you, the short sale has at least a 50-50 chance of foreclosure as well. So at this point, you've got a seller, the most common seller in America, looking at all their options, and I didn't make these up. These are the most common options for the most common sellers, and they're saying, oh my God, are there any other options? And you say, well, as a matter of fact, there is. You can do a mortgage payment assignment. And in a mortgage payment assignment, essentially a buyer comes along and buys the home for the existing loan balance, which for your home would be $155,000. Because the payments keep getting made now by the buyer, it does not negatively affect your credit. It typically sells in 2 to 6 weeks, not months, and the seller does not have to bring any money to the table. So I think it's very obvious as you go through this close with your sellers that the mortgage payment assignment is by far their least worst option. And I have a whole video where I explain this in more detail, actually to sellers. And I also developed an entire negotiating class where I have scripts and registration forms and a homeowner's guide that you can hand to a homeowner that answers all of their questions about these programs. A whole video where I explain to sellers what their different options are, negotiating scripts, contracts, etc. Alrighty, so let's just recap. For 50 million sellers, this is their best option. Let's monetize this opportunity. If you have 50 million people in that waiting room at $8,000 a head, this least worst option is worth $400 billion. So my question to you is, what's your share going to be? There's Sasha, he's in. Okay, for 84 million buyers, this is not just their best option, this is their only option. The American dream of home ownership is alive and well. Buyers want a home, but they can't get loans. For these buyers, the loan is more valuable than the home. You need to take a minute and let that point sink in. For these buyers, mortgage payment assignment is the only option they have to buy a home that they want. So mortgage payment assignment summary. Mortgage payment assignment is simply getting a zero, no, or negative equity property under contract subject to the existing financing and wholesaling it for a wholesaling or assignment fee that's on the HUD to an end buyer who gets to buy with owner financing. This is the simplest and most elegant form of owner financing, and once you figure this out, it is a cash machine. And the benefits are tremendous. Sellers, even with minimum no or negative equity, get to sell in weeks, not months. Sellers now have superior alternatives to short sales, listings, foreclosures, and all of their other options. Higher success rate, no credit hits, faster, doesn't cost them money. Buyers with minimum credit get to buy homes now with the financing in place. Now buyers have superior alternatives to conventional financing, which they can't even get. And of course the investor gets to make money with no money and does not have to buy or sell anything. But the benefits to the investor actually go way beyond that. All we have to do is find unsellable zero, no, or negative equity homes. These are the easiest to find sellers in the universe. We just have to find unloanable buyers. These are the easiest to find buyers in the universe. And if you think you can't find these buyers and sellers, I will teach you how. It takes no money. It's infinitely scalable. This is fast. It doesn't require credit, approvals, underwriting, private money, hard money, surveys, loan docs, research, repair bids. There's usually not even inspections. You don't even need to buy or sell a house, and you can do this from anywhere. And as cool as all that is, it gets even better, much better. I'm going to tell you about a whole series of strategies or variations on these strategies that you can also execute that will make you even more money. Mortgage payment assignment is just one way to do what we call an assignment of mortgage payment strategy. The other variations include AMPS wraps, AMPS rent to own, and even AMPS buy and hold. Let me explain some of these other options. AMPS wraps. In AMPS wrap, what you're doing is you're getting the property under contract using a mortgage payment assignment. But instead of assigning the contract to a buyer, you're going to raise the payment each month and then assign the payment to the buyer. So you're still getting your $10,000 down, but instead of selling it for the $1,200 a month that you bought it with, you're now selling it for $1,400 a month. So you're getting an extra $200 a month. In fact, you can also raise the principal balance on the loan. So instead of assigning the $120,000 loan to the buyer, you can assign a $140,000 loan to the buyer. This is called wrapping a loan around the underlying loan. And of course, when the buyer ultimately refinances, you get another $20,000. That's what's called the back end. So when assigning the payment, you need to raise it by $200. You can raise the price over. Now, if you did this over and over again, like 40 times, for example, some of my most successful students are doing multiple, mortgage assignment or mortgage payment assignment deals per month. If you did 40 deals, you're now pulling in an extra $8,000 a month of passive income. That's $96,000 a year for doing nothing. If you do 80 deals, you're pulling in an extra $192,000 a year. Take the next year off. That's the power of doing this with AMPS wraps. You can also do AMPS rent to own. This is another variation where if you find a seller that for one reason or another isn't comfortable having their mortgage payments assigned, you can simply lease the property with a pre-negotiated option to buy it at a pre-agreed upon price. And then after you have it under lease, you put it on a rent-to-own plan where the buyer agrees to pay you a down payment and a monthly payment that you pay towards the lease as they save up to buy the property, and then they eventually buy the property for $20,000 or some price that's been pre-negotiated above your option price. So again, you get your $10,000 down, you get your $200 spread a month, and then you get another $20,000 when the buyer ultimately purchases the property. You can even do AMPS buy and hold, and I love this because what you do is you basically, again, get the property under contract using your mortgage payment assignment process. So you're buying it for zero down, $1,200 a month, $120,000 loan balance. But instead of assigning the contract to a buyer, you now lease the property to a tenant. and maybe the tenant pays you $1,400 a month, so you're making a little positive cash flow. You keep it for some period of time, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 years, and then you replace the tenant with a buyer and you resell the property. It's pretty easy to make $100,000 a house. What's the catch? You've got to lease it for a number of years as it appreciates. When you resell it, you make $100,000. And if you think about this, if you do this with a number of different properties, like 40 deals, you just made $4 million. So I want you to keep the best properties, and I'll teach you what those are, for yourself, and build your wealth portfolio that way. And by the way, it's pretty easy to make $100,000 a house when you're doing buy and hold, but if you buy the better houses in the better locations, you'll make that money much, much faster. Okay, here's another reason I'm so excited. Remember I told you I did 1,000 short sales? Well, let's take a minute and look at how short sales compare to the AMP strategies. How easy is it to find sellers? Well, with short sales, it's super easy. All you're looking for is sellers with no equity. Same thing with AMPs. It's super easy, sellers with no equity. How easy is it to find the buyers? With short sales, it's hard. You need buyers with loans. With AMPs, it's easy. You need buyers without loans. Average time to get paid. Average short sales taking 6 to 12 months. I just did one that took 17 months. Average AMPs deals are going down in 2 to 6 weeks. How about time required to do the deal? When we do a short sale, I got to tell you, it's kind of like doing your taxes. We put anywhere from 20 to 40 hours of paperwork and calls and time into each file. On AMP strategies, it's typically 2 to 3 hours per deal. How about your success rate? Well, when we're trying to flip short sales, about 50% of them end in foreclosure. Only about 10% of them can we get at a price where we can actually afford to flip the house and make money as an investor. With AMP strategies, 95% of the time when we get it under contract, we can find a buyer. How about if you're just a realtor doing short sales? Well, 40 to 50% of the time you may be able to find a buyer, but again with AMP strategies it's 95%. Average profit per deal. This is how I look at how much money I'm going to make. When I start a short sale, on average when I flip one I make $15,000, but it only happens 10% of the time. So when I open up a file I'm making $1,500 statistically per file. With my AMPs deals I'm on average making $8,000 a deal, and I'm making it 95% of the time, which means $7,600 a file. And then finally, regulatory challenges. Anti-flipping rules, seasoning rules, title company rules, transactional funding, none of that is necessary or exists in the AMPs world. And money required by the investor, you know, when you're doing short sales, you may need transactional funding, you may need cash if you're seasoning a loan. You don't need any money at all when you're doing AMP strategies. So what's the bottom line here? If I can make millions of dollars doing short sales, imagine how much money I can make doing AMP deals. Do not sit this one out. The biggest transfer of wealth in the history of the world is taking place right now. The last transfer, which in my estimation was not as big as what's going on now, was during the real estate bubble. I made millions of dollars doing short sales during that time. But I got to tell you, huge shifts in the market create huge opportunities. Bigger shifts create bigger opportunities. How big of a market shift do you think we just went through? How big do you think this opportunity is? How often do you think these shifts and these opportunities come around? I would say not very often. And by the way, you're not just helping the buyers and the sellers. You could be helping other investors. You know, you can walk into your local real estate club and raise your hand up in the air and say, hey, I buy houses for retail. Does anybody have a lead for me? Every hand in the room is going to go up. Every investor in the USA could be a lead source for you. Realtors and mortgage brokers, go ask a realtor or a mortgage broker, do you know any people that can't get loans? Do you ever have deals that fall apart because the buyer can't get financing? I got news for you. You can now salvage these deals, pay their commissions, and make money yourself in the deal. Every realtor and mortgage broker could be a lead source for you. Rental property owners, you know, I own lots of rental properties. I can't get loans. Go ask any rental property owner, do you want to buy more real estate right now but can't get loans because you have more than 4 or 8 or 10, whatever the limit is? Guess what? Every landlord in the USA may become a customer of yours using this program. And by the way, you should also be doing this yourself and building your own wealth portfolio. Here's a couple of stories from some of my students. This first one is Esmeralda, and she was a real estate broker in Austin, Texas. Her business hit a wall in 2008. I taught her how to do mortgage payment assignment in April of 2009, and she's now doing 6 deals a month, making $8,000 to $10,000 a deal. Her entire career changed because of this strategy. She says, I have completely stopped marketing for my realtor business. This is much easier, much more profitable, completely changed her life. Here's another one of my students. Her name is Danny Lynn, and again, realtor. Started doing mortgage payment assignment in mid-09. She's now doing 3 to 5 deals a month. She took her career to the next level. She says, I'm now almost exclusively focused on mortgage payment assignment. I've done short sales, wholesaling, and conventional real estate. This is much faster and much easier. What's the bottom line here, folks? You are one deal away from being on your path to success. Your first deal is the hardest. You do the first deal, the second deal, the 5th deal, the 10th deal, the 100th deal, the 1,000th deal. Here's another story, and this is actually a neighbor of mine. His name is Stuart, and he's standing literally in my dining room, and he walked over. He's holding in his hand a stack of closing documents, and he actually did 6 AMPS deals in one day within 60 days of me teaching him this program. And I love Stuart. He had a take action attitude, and he went out and he found an investor that wanted to liquidate a bunch of properties, and he did an AMP strategy and got all 6 properties essentially for free, and then turned around and resold them. Now Stuart actually went on to do something really cool. He also started getting into the assisted living facilities business, and in that business he basically gets a house and he turns it into an assisted living facility, and instead of renting the house out for $1,000 a month, he rents out each room for $1,000 a month. So it makes major cash flow. And all he needs is, an endless supply of essentially free houses. Doesn't even care essentially what the payments are because he's getting so much cash flow out of them. So now he's using the mortgage payment assignment and the AMP strategies to build his portfolio of assisted living facilities. So he got into an entire new business because of this strategy. So, why assignment and mortgage payment strategies? I love these AMP strategies. I like them because they're safe, they're scalable, they're obviously profitable, and they work now in the market that we're in. It also gives me an unfair advantage. Here's my unfair advantage. I like investing where I have an unfair advantage. Now, what money and security means to you is a personal issue. Let me tell you a quick story about me and how real estate has changed my life. After college, I actually studied engineering, and I had a dream of getting into the home automation business, and I started a company to build home automation systems. And, I was too young, too inexperienced, probably a little ahead of my time with some of the ideas, and my lifelong dream kind of came crashing down, and I lost the company, and I had to go out and get a real job where I worked for 16 years. Well, I have to say, real estate enabled me to fulfill this lifelong dream, and here's what I did. After making several $1,000,000 as an investor in real estate, I actually bought my dream home, and this is my home in Austin, Texas, and it was actually featured on KXAN NBC News as Austin, Texas's most high-tech home. It's a really cool house. There's 10 flat screens, media servers. You can play any song or any movie on any screen in any room anywhere. There's a huge plasma next to a swim-up bar and a hot tub outside. There's a 120-inch screen in the media room, 20 touch panels. I can turn on the spa from my iPhone. The doors electrically open and close, video surveillance, automation, HVAC, super, super high-tech house. And I'm talking about my house not to brag about my house. That's not the point. The point here is this is what real estate was able to do for me. This is what I show people is the possibility that I got out of real estate. Now, what you get out of real estate is depending on whatever you want to get out of real estate. And there's also a little segue here. I've always had a passion for technology, as you can see, and my passion for technology lives on. I've always wanted to use systems and technology to solve problems. And one of the ways I scaled up my short sale business is by developing systems and tools to allow me to do multiple short sales per month. Well, I'd now like to share with you how I've invested my money that I made from real estate into technology to enable you and I to do these AMPS transactions. And this is my dream, which is now a reality, something that I call the REI Matcher. The REI Matcher is an online system that allows you to do multiple AMPS deals per month. And let me explain kind of what this system is. Basically, it's a simple to use online database of your sellers and prospective buyers. So it matches your sellers and buyers with each other and with other investors, buyers, and sellers. You become part of a network where all of your buyers and sellers are pooled together and you can do more deals. So it dramatically enhances your ability to manage your business, to do deals, and it dramatically enhances the amount of business that you can actually do. So you could make more money and even split deals with other investors. It's really easy to use. You fill out a form. It's kind of like registering on Facebook. You fill out a little profile and the platform builds you a website, and then it starts building your buyer and seller pool, and then you get a little dashboard where you can see all your buyers and sellers, and it matches them up. It builds custom websites for you. These websites basically show maps of the area. It's got your logo on it, your company information. It's got a map of all the deals in your territory, all of your deals, and all of the deals of all the other investors in the area. It's got property profiles that your prospective clients can see. Buyers can create their own profiles. They can search for homes in the system. They can even download a free book on the benefits of buying with owner financing. So this website's designed and generated for you, and the system gives you a dashboard, and the dashboard shows you all your buyers and sellers and all the other properties in the system. I actually had one of my students that was spending $400 a month just implementing essentially this system in a manual way. In other words, he's out there, he's doing mortgage payment assignment. He's one of my best students. He's doing multiple deals per month, and then he's paying an assistant to keep track of all his buyers and all his sellers and keep sending emails out to his buyers and his sellers telling them about the different matches they have and the different properties they might want to look at. So mortgage payment assignment is the only investing strategy he's currently pursuing. It's much easier and faster. He was spending hundreds of dollars, doing this process manually, and now he's doing it in an automatic way. This is a super simple to use tool. It's all automated. There's all these how-to guides online with videos that explain how to set this thing up. I actually spent over $350,000 developing this system. Am I confident or what? We even have a patent pending on the platform's unique abilities to match buyers and sellers to each other and to other subscribers, sellers, and buyers. So I've done the heavy lifting in developing all the tools, contracts, and strategies, and even the ads and websites we're going to talk about for you. And we now support hundreds of investors and literally thousands of buyers and sellers all across North America on this platform. In fact, this is the world's largest owner finance database. In fact, if you put a buyer or seller in there, it's not unlikely that it's going to instantly match up with a seller or buyer that's also already in the database. So all you have to do is take action and follow a step-by-step plan. You also need to claim your territory. Investors, when they sign up on this platform, are grouped into territories. So you get a territory. Now, just to explain what that means, territories are major metropolitan areas and the surrounding counties. So every single county in the entire USA is in one territory or another, and you claim a territory, and there's other investors in that territory. And the reason we do that is because when we generate websites and things like that for you, it wouldn't make sense for you to have a website saying, here are all the properties available in the USA. No, buyers are looking for properties in specific areas. So it creates websites that talk about all of the deals within particular areas. Because there's multiple investors per territory and multiple buyers and sellers per territory, it essentially creates a pool of buyers and sellers and investors that can all do their deals together. And what this means is more deals and more deals faster. There's also an online directory, so you can actually communicate with all of the other investors in your area. You can pull up a profile and learn about the different investors and communicate with the investors in your area. And essentially what the REI Matcher does is it turns investing using the AMP strategies into the ultimate team sport. Let me demonstrate this graphically. Let's say you have 3 investors and they're all working together in an REI Matcher territory. So investor number 1, his seller and one of his houses matches up with one of his buyers. Great, he did a deal. But he might also have a seller with a house that matches up with investor number 2's buyer. So great, they do a second deal. They might even have another investor, number 3, who has a seller with a house that matches up with one of investor number 1's buyers. Great, they do a third deal. So what's the bottom line here? Because of the REI Matcher, it allows you to do not only more deals yourself, and to automate the process of matching your buyers up with your sellers, but it allows you to also do even more deals with other investors in your territory. So it makes investing using AMP strategies the ultimate team sport. It's so interesting that this is a team sport. Usually as a real estate investor, I'm competing with every other real estate investor in my town. I'm trying to find those super great deals on the high equity properties and beat everybody else there and out negotiate everybody else and get those properties under contract. But if you think about it, with the AMP strategies, there's tons of buyers, there's tons of sellers, and as we pool them all together, we all make even more money. The REI Matcher makes it so easy. You just, again, fill out a profile. And here's how easy it is. I'm going to show you the automation here. You fill out a profile, and the REI Matcher generates a website for you. It actually generates several different kinds of websites. One example of a website it creates for you is a squeeze page. A squeeze page is a website that has a video and a free ebook, so it entices people to watch the video and get a free ebook in exchange for entering their email address. We also supply a list of ads that you can literally cut and paste into places like Craigslist, and your ad has links to your squeeze page in the ad. So here's what happens automatically. The REI Matcher instantly builds you a squeeze page website. The buyers see your ad listed on Craigslist, and they click on the link where they go to your squeeze page, they see the video, and they get a free ebook. The buyers then get a series of 7 professionally written emails from you. The system has a built-in autoresponder, and it sends the buyer a series of emails directly from you, so you're building rapport with these buyers that you've never even met. The buyers then register themselves on your REI Matcher dashboard, and they get notified again from emails from you about all of the homes matching their requirements. And as new homes come into the system, they get new emails from you notifying them about matching homes to their requirements. And then one day, the buyer finds the house they want, and you get a phone call or an email from the buyer that's ready to buy a house. So, how cool is that? Now, remember when I said, I'm going to teach you how to sell unsellable houses to unloanable buyers? Well, I have to say, folks, I lied. We're not talking about just selling unsellable houses to unloanable buyers. When you use the REI Matcher and all of its automation, we're talking about how to sell unsellable houses you've never even seen to unloanable buyers you've never even met. How cool is that? I need a bailout for me. Look, I'm going to tell you a true story. Back in 1990, the government seized the Mustang Ranch brothel in Nevada for tax evasion. And as required by law, they tried to run it. Well, they failed and it closed. And now we are trusting the auto industry, healthcare, and the banking system to the same nitwits that couldn't make money selling sex and whiskey in a whorehouse. What can I say, folks? Don't wait around for the government to bail you out. You need to make your own bailout. And the bailout that I'm going to suggest for you is something that I call the Assignment of Mortgage Payments System. This is the training program and system and set of tools that I've developed to allow you to invest using this strategy exactly as I do. So let's talk about what this is. But first, let me just take a minute and explain a little bit about where this came from. I just want to let everybody know I've actually been doing mortgage payment assignment and other AMP strategies all the way back to 2003. In fact, I own rental property that I bought as far back as 2003, and I still own the property that I bought using these strategies. When 2008 came along, however, this strategy and this set of strategies just took off. After the bubble burst in the real estate market and lending became difficult, I suddenly started to make a lot more money using these strategies. And in 2009, I started teaching these strategies in Texas. I got together a group of students in Texas. I run the largest real estate investing club in Central Texas, and we ended up getting about 75 students across the state who started doing this. Based on their feedback and their use of these strategies and tools, we built a program in 2010 that we called the MAPS, or Mortgage Assignment Profit System program, and launched this training nationally. Thousands of buyers and sellers and investors across the country started using this back in 2010. And once again, we listened to our customers, we listened to our students, and we took everything that everybody asked for and created what we call AMPS 2011. This is the next generation of all of the tools and strategies and training based on everything that everybody asked for. So yes, we still teach people how to find and buy and sell, but we've also dramatically increased our ability to legally close these deals in all 50 states. We've embellished our ability to do these deals using AMPS wraps and AMPS rent to own and AMPS buy and hold. We've dramatically simplified the paperwork and created the ultimate done-for-you buyer and seller tools. And I'm going to go through all of that as we go through this. I also want to remind everybody I am an encyclopedia of knowledge. I have studied, executed, and performed this strategy extensively. I've also developed an exhaustive list of resources for my students to be able to perform this strategy. Guides, contracts, videos, coaching, a resource center, AMPS management tools, all sorts of stuff. And we'll go through all of it as we go through here. So what do you get with this training program? Well, instant access, online resource center, books, guides, contracts, live coaching, online video, and downloadable training. You get an account on the REI Matcher, actually the REI Matcher Pro. You get the territory of your choice and custom websites and squeeze pages, videos, QAs, marketing materials, a lot of stuff. Let's get into the details. But most importantly, you get to join the team. You get to join thousands of investors all over North America that are doing AMPS deals. This is the world's largest community of owner finance investors. This is the world's largest database of owner finance buyers and sellers. You need to claim your territory now and join the team. Alrighty, this is all of the components, if you will, of the assignment of mortgage payment system. And we're going to go through these one at a time, starting with the marketing module. This is a training program teaching you how to find your buyers and sellers. There's 20 proven marketing campaigns to find sellers, another dozen campaigns to find buyers. This is your lead machine. There's a lot of different campaigns in here. How to use the internet, bandit signs, newspaper ads, direct mail, probate, model data, non-owner occupied, Section 8, expired listings, email, magnetic signs. In other words, we give you marketing material and a little training program on how to use each one of these different media, if you will, to generate leads.
And this is proven and tested. We didn't just come up with a bunch of ideas and say, here, go try this. These are actual campaigns, actual material that's been tested and proven by myself and other investors. Door hangers, letters of intent, business cards, FSBO marketing, mass media, past referrals, how to get leads from other investors, wholesalers, realtors, property managers, bird dogs, even on Craigslist and social media. All of these are included in the marketing training program. We also have an acquisition training program. This is the ultimate phone script, seller registration forms, negotiating scripts, contracts, due diligence, everything you need to convert those leads into deals. This is the fastest lead to deal conversion process, and it's completely scalable. In other words, the techniques that we teach can all be done over the phone, and that makes the process very, very scalable. The bottom line is the more deals, the more dollars, and this is all about converting those leads into deals and then ultimately into dollars. And then we have Module C, the mortgage payment assignment strategy. And this is how you monetize those deals. It's step by step through the process of doing mortgage payment assignments. It's a tested program, and it makes you the master AMPS investor in your area. And we've also created Module D and E, Advanced AMPS and Combo Plans. This is where we teach you to take it that next step and close your deals as AMPS wraps or AMPS rent-to-owns, or also combo plans. There's a complete short sale processing training program in here, house swapping, listings. We really didn't talk about some of these other things because we covered so much ground in all of this presentation. But you're going to find that the marketing machine you set up is going to create all sorts of other lead opportunities for you, streams of income for you, and this is how you're going to basically monetize all those leads that you're going to get from your marketing machine. Okay, we also have the AMPS deal module. The AMPS deal module is, and we also call this presentation, in case of deal, break glass. This is a step-by-step walkthrough of what to do when you got a hot one, when you got a deal, how to manage expectations, fill in the contract, and arrange the closing. It takes the mystery out of the contracting process and the process of papering up and actually doing the deal. So it gives people a lot of confidence. And all of this is on our online access center. So you get 24/7 access to AMPS. All the modules are online. Now we also mail a set of books. That's kind of a little bonus. You don't need them, but we do mail them so you can follow along. The reason I say you don't need them is because it's all available online. There's over 30 hours of streaming video, quick start training. You can schedule or get the schedule for the live coaching on there. Very, very valuable resource. And, I also want to remind everybody, this whole program is instant access. When you sign up for the AMPS program, you get a password via email. You instantly get to log in, and you get a little tour of the system, and you can get started literally immediately. That's how quick it is. In fact, speaking of quick, we have also got Quick Start Training. Quick Start Training are a series of videos to help you get started very, very quickly. There's a lot of resources available in this program, and sometimes people just want to say, okay, what do I need to do right away? Well, this teaches you how to build an action plan, marketing plan, find your buyers, build your power team, find your sellers. So this series of Quick Start training modules will help you get started very, very quickly. And this is something I'm very excited about. We've put a lot of effort into this. I don't know if anybody has ever done anything like this before. We have built the AMPS Legal Network. This is a national law firm with 50-state legal network that's set up to close your deals. Turok Law Firm, turoklaw.com. And we have closing resources now in all 50 states. This is hundreds of attorneys and closing resources all across the USA. This allows you to close your deals wherever you go. We're even setting up closing resources in other countries as well. So sometimes our students would come to us and say, oh, how do you do these contracts, and where do I find an attorney, and where do I find a title company? You don't have to worry about all of that. We provide one-stop shopping to do that for you. In fact, speaking of one-stop shopping, Our legal network can do more than just close your AMPS deals. These aren't part of the program, but these are other services that the legal network can do for you. They can do your loan servicing, your loan origination to make sure you're SAFE Act compliant. They can review your marketing for MARS compliance. They can create entities for you, provide title insurance, general legal consultations, buyer and seller consultations, asset protection. So there's a tremendous number of resources, again, one-stop shopping available in the network. We also built something really cool called the Wingman Kit. Now let me explain to you what the Wingman Kit is. Anybody who's seen the movie Top Gun probably remembers what's the wingman, right? It's the guy that kind of watches your back. Well, when our students started doing these mortgage assignment payment programs, what we found was that sometimes they were having a difficult time explaining how this works to the sellers. It's probably, I'd argue, the most challenging part of the learning curve is learning how to explain this in a confident way to sellers. Because if you can't explain it like you know what you're talking about, a seller's going to say, you know, who are you and what are you talking about? And they're not going to want to go along with the program. So it takes a little bit of practice. So as a crutch, as a tool to help my students basically accelerate that part of their learning curve, I built the Wingman Kit. What the Wingman Kit is, it's a video of me talking directly to your sellers, and I walk them through what I call the least worst close. I don't call it that in the video, but it explains to sellers what their different options are for selling their home so that they can conclude on their own that their best option is one of the different AMPS options. So I walk through the least worst close. You can play this video for your sellers, and basically it allows me to help close the deal for you. Another component of the Wingman Kit is the AMPS Homeowner Assignment Guide. This is a PDF document you can print out and you can hand to your sellers or email to your sellers, and it answers all of the questions they're going to have. It overcomes objections. It really explains the program in great detail. And, you know, we've never done anything like this before, but we're actually putting the video on a website that we are building for you. I haven't gotten to that yet, but we're putting the whole video and the assignment guide on a website that we're building for you, so you can just send your customers to that website. Okay, we also have something called the Buyer Magnet. The Buyer Magnet is super, super cool. Basically, we build a personal buyer website. So you get a website. You also get something called a squeeze page, a second website. And we give you a bunch of pre-written Craigslist ads. These are little ads you can literally just cut and paste into Craigslist. And what's powerful here is you paste this ad into Craigslist, and people see the ad, they click on the link, they go to your website, and then they appear in your dashboard. On the website, it has a free ebook and autoresponders, so they get a series of emails from you to them. So you're basically capturing buyers, getting them into your database, and building a rapport with them all automatically just because you cut and paste something into Craigslist. It rapidly builds your buyer pool. In fact, we have thousands of buyers already in our database because of the Buyer Magnet. First-generation investors have added over 5,000 buyers just using this tool. Alrighty. Well, what else? We're getting even better here. The REI Matcher Pro. We have a new version of the REI Matcher called the Pro Edition, and this is really powerful. This is the world's largest database, over 6,000 owner-financed buyers and sellers. You get the AMPS dashboard. You get a deal management system where it'll manage all your buyers and sellers. We create buyer websites that are branded to you, seller websites branded to you, autoresponders, scores of pre-written emails, a property syndicator, a really cool feature where it automatically takes all of your properties you have under contract and it posts them on other websites all over the internet, an online investor directory so you can network with all the other investors in your territory. You can discuss things in forums. There's a help desk. All of this is part of the REI Matcher Pro. And what this does is it basically systematizes your business. It creates all of the tools in one place to do this business, and once you systematize your business becomes scalable. Scale is the ability to be able to do multiple deals a month, and with the REI Matcher Pro, you can do multiple deals per month. This is a patent-pending system. It does very unique things in terms of its ability to match buyers and sellers up, your buyers, other people's sellers, etc. We spent over $350,000 in development costs, and it's really quite an amazing system. And you get an REI Matcher territory. Now let me just explain for a minute what a territory is. A territory is a major metropolitan area and the surrounding counties. For example, every county in the United States is part of one territory or another. And the reason that you get into the system by selecting a territory is territories will group all of the investors and all of the buyers and all of the sellers within a geographic area together. In other words, when a buyer or a seller wants to buy or sell a house, they're not going to say, I want to buy a house somewhere in the United States. They're going to say, I want to buy a house somewhere in Oklahoma City or the surrounding area. So the websites and the tools and all the matching puts up maps and descriptions, and it matches up and pulls together all the buyers, sellers, and investors within these different territories. There are multiple investors per territory. By design, you want other investors in your territory because it creates a bigger pool of buyers and sellers and people to do deals with. There's a directory to allow you to network, communicate, and partner with all the other investors in those territories as well. More investors means more buyers, means more sellers, and means more deals for everybody. Alrighty, so you become the AMPS master in your territory. Alrighty, now this is probably the most popular feature of the entire program, and this is AMPS Live Coaching. You get 8 weeks of coaching webinars with me. I get on the phone with all of my students every other Monday, and what we do for about an hour and a half is we talk about investing, and people throw out questions as fast as they can throw them out, and I answer them as fast as I can answer them. You get your questions answered. You get to learn from others. Sometimes people don't have a question, so they just listen to other people's questions. It's very educational. We record all of these calls, and we post the recordings on the Customer Resource Center, so there's also the access to past calls. People love this because even though the training program is extremely thorough, and by now you've gotten a little bit of an idea for my teaching style, and which is very much like my presentation style, although at a slightly slower pace, you've gotten a good idea, and you know that the program, I'm sure, is very thorough, but sometimes people still get stuck and they don't understand a particular thing. So having the ability to get on the phone on these live coaching calls and being able to ask your question can be very, very valuable. Personally, has helped from me through these coaching webinars. And here's another feature that's really cool, and there's never been anything exactly like this before, super seller sites. And by saying never been anything exactly like this before, we're building for you your own seller websites to capture sellers. And what's unique about these websites, these are not just simple one-page websites or a little information websites. These are massive websites. It makes you the expert in your market. There's pages and pages of information on ways to avoid foreclosure, 7 different pages, 12 different pages of information on ways to sell your house. Every page of information includes examples, questions, answers. It's all search engine optimized. There's Mars disclaimer, so it's Mars advertising compliant. I don't know anybody else's websites that are, by the way. There's lead captures on there, free reports that your visitors can download, autoresponders, scores of professionally written emails go out from you to the people that visit your website, so you automatically establish rapport with them. Lead management dashboard in the REI Matcher. In other words, the ability to manage your leads and assign them into different response sequences. It rapidly builds your seller pool. And there's some bonuses we've included in this as well. We've included the complete wingman kit, the video, and the report on one of the pages on this website. We also have a hidden page on your website where I teach basically what all these AMP strategies are all about. So sometimes investors want to explain this to realtors and other investors they're working with. So I have a presentation that's hidden on your website. You know where it is, but other people won't find it unless they know the address, where I walk through and explain all this. And this is useful when you're building your power team and networking with other investors. And this also, by the way, the website is not just about AMPS. This will generate leads for all types of real estate deals. We talk about 12 different ways to buy and sell real estate. So anybody who wants to sell a home is going to be able to explore extensive resources on this website and look at all of the different strategies that are available to sell a home and generate leads to you based on that get connected to these auto response sequence. So very, very, very sophisticated seller websites. We have competitors that sell these for literally $100 to $200 to $300 per month, and they don't have access to the REI Matcher and some of the other features that this plugs into. Now, there's some bonuses that we're also including in this promotion. And the first bonus I want to talk about, or the first two bonuses I should say, are we're going to include 2 additional territories. So besides your first territory, you get a second and a third territory. And you get 2 additional websites, you get 2 additional buyer magnets that come with the squeeze pages. What does that mean? Sometimes somebody says, well, I really want to invest in this area, but I'm also thinking I want to invest in that area and maybe even a third area. Most people only use 1 or 2, but just to make sure everybody has all the territories they want, we're including 3 territories. You can bundle them up into a supersized territory, or more likely you can pick a couple of areas across the country if for some reason or another you've got other areas you also want to invest in. Not everybody uses all these territories, but for people who want to invest in other areas, because the AMP strategies are so prone to allow you to do that, this simplifies it. We're also waiving the setup fees for setting up these extra territories. So you get to invest in additional areas that allows you to create additional streams of income. Alrighty. Another thing that's part of the program, a super amazing bonus. I've never seen anything like this before. We're calling it the AMP Standard Master Agreement. We also call it the SMA or Super Contract. What is the Super Contract? We've created a universal contract for all of the AMP strategies, a single contract for all of these different strategies. So it covers, AMP's mortgage payment assignment strategies, AMP's wraparound mortgage strategies, AMP's rent-to-own transactions, and we have 50 state-specific versions of this contract. So it used to be to use these different strategies, you needed to combine a lot of different paperwork. You needed to take a state contract and then some addendums and some CYA documents and some disclaimers and disclosures, and you needed to bundle all of this together to make a set of paperwork to be able to do this or one of these different strategies in your particular state. Well, to simplify all of that, we've painstakingly taken all of that stuff, put it all in a single document, and then modified the document 50 different ways for each of the requirements in all 50 states. There's nothing like this. This was an incredibly painstaking effort, a monumental effort. Our national legal network maintains these contracts exactly, as the different rules and things change in different states. They update and maintain the contracts, so you can constantly do all of these different strategies, using the contracts and the paperwork appropriate for your particular state. So that's the AMP's Standard Master Agreement or Super Contract, and it's really totally unprecedented in the business. And it's integrated into the REI Matcher Pro as well. Now, you could hire an attorney to build all that stuff for you, by the way, and you'd spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I know we spent many thousands of dollars developing all that. So, if you bought all of this stuff, I'm going to talk about value here for a minute, you could easily spend about $10,000 and literally hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, because there's many different tools and websites, multiple different websites, seller sites, buyer sites, squeeze pages, all of the different video training modules, all the different hosting stuff, all of the online deal syndicator and deal management tools. That could cost a lot of money buying all of this stuff a la carte. We're not going to charge $10,000 for this program. We're not going to charge $5,000 for a program, although I've had people say that they would gladly pay $5,000. In fact, I've had people say they would pay up to $25,000, but we're not doing that either. In fact, we could offer this for $2,500, and I think most of you would probably agree that's a pretty good deal. But we want to get everybody to be able to do this, and here's our deal. It's $9.97 and $97 a month for all of the different websites and subscription services. In other words, for all the stuff that goes along with the REI Matcher Pro. And I'll give you a little spoiler alert, it's going to get even better. But that's the deal, $9.97, $97 a month. But I also wanted to mention this whole program comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. In other words, if you are not happy for any reason at all, you can return the program within 30 days for 100% of your money back. You get your money back in a prompt and courteous manner. I want everybody to be happy with the product. In fact, I even offer a $5,000 reward. Let me tell you about this. I know that this isn't possible, but here's the deal. To the first person that brings me a better, safer, faster, no money, no risk, no loans, no inspections, no research bids, no surveys, real estate investing strategy that I can do anywhere in the current market, if you figure out that there's some other way to make money that's better than this and you teach it to me, I will pay you a $5,000 reward. I know that this is not possible, but the markets are always evolving and changing, and someday there will be some other strategy that makes sense, and the first guy that figures it out and shows it to me, they will teach it to me, they get the $5,000 reward, and I will then teach that to my students. Alrighty, so that's the entire program, $9.97 and $97 a month. But I mentioned, there was a little spoiler alert, so let me tell you about the spoiler alert. We're going to include some additional bonuses in this program as well. And the next two bonuses I want to talk about are the business planning series. My lovely wife and partner, Shanoa, is also an MBA from Rice University, and with that business background and her extensive brokerage background and real estate investing experience, she's built a business planning training program. This is a standalone training program that teaches you how to build business plans, action plans, marketing plans, power team, and then a second program is advanced business management. In other words, how to set up your corporate entities, whether they're LLCs, LPs, C Corps, S Corps, what the trade-offs are amongst all those things, legal strategies, and much more. This is how to do this as a business. As you start to make money using these strategies, you're going to want to make a business out of this, and this is the business of being a real estate investor. Now, this is not the first thing I want you to focus on. First, I want you to get out there, roll up your sleeves, and start making money. But as you start to make money, you're going to want to run this like a business, and this is going to show you how to do exactly that. And we're also including something I call the AMPS playbook, the investor playbook. And here's where this came from. This is advanced money making AMP strategies. I got together with some of my most successful very first students, and I said, hey, I want everybody to mastermind, to share their best ideas for how to partner for buyers, partner for sellers, use the REI Matcher in advanced ways so you could find deals from realtors and mortgage brokers, investors, how to find deals even in the MLS. So it's tips, tricks, and secrets from some of my most successful students that have all been put together into the investor playbook. It's a great, great set of tools to take your AMPS business to the next level. And that's something we're also including in this special promotion. And I probably saved the very best for last, our final bonus, and we call this AMPS Live. AMPS Live, everybody that joins the AMPS team, everybody that becomes one of our students, and their guest get to join me personally at a roll-up-your-sleeves 3-day workshop. In the 3-day workshop, we teach marketing, branding, strategy. We have a legal workshop. We teach advanced AMP strategies. We teach how-to. I give a State of the Union economic update. I give presentations on how to build your wealth. For example, how to make $10 million, what's the catch in about 10 years using these strategies, much more. This is a amazing event. It is both motivational and transformational. There's all sorts of things we cover in this that's totally beyond what we talk about in just the AMPS program. We've had 800 people that came to us and have come to this event, and the average response, because everybody fills out an evaluation form, is this is the best event they've ever been in. It's totally different than what you've probably ever experienced before if you've ever gone to a live event. We have expert panels come in. Some of my most successful students come in and talk about how they're making money using these strategies, hands-on business development, breakout sessions, and special guests. And I can't tell you exactly which guest is going to show up at which event, but I have some kind of impressive friends. I've had George Ross, Donald Trump's right-hand man, show up at a number of my events. I've had Wayne Allen Root, vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, the master investor of Las Vegas. They call him the Warren Buffett of Las Vegas. He's come to my events. I've had the mayor of Las Vegas at my events, and these guys come and talk about how to make money and how to be successful. And by the way, this is not a pitch fest. They're not coming to talk about selling stuff. That's not the point of this event. There is no advanced maps, advanced apps. There's no higher level program. Sometimes people go to an event and they say, well, if you really want the good stuff, you got to buy the deluxe super whatever program. This is the advanced super deluxe everything program. There is no more advanced training than what you get in this program. The event is all about getting yourself motivated and focused on being successful, turning this into a business, and really taking it as far as you're able to take it. So it's a really amazing event. The event itself is worth at least, if not more, than the whole AMPS program, and you get it totally free with the program. We are on a tour. We're going from city to city to city with this event. And you can register to attend or to join us in any particular city that you want. Now, if for some reason you're not allowed or able to come to the event, no problem. We'll give you a video of one of the events, but you're really going to want to join us live. And I am so excited and proud about this. This is just some of the feedback that some of the people attending the events, and we have a little RSVP site that all of our students get access to, and they can see all of the feedback and videos from all the past students, and there's been a lot of them. We put all the feedback on there, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's 99% good, so it's good to hear it all. But this is just some of the feedback. This is the best class I've ever taken, outstanding, learn more this weekend than any other event I've ever been to, excellent content. Phill is a great example of what's possible, very inspiring, engaging, informative, wow. I would rate Phill the best speaker I've ever seen. Excellent, impressive, wonderful, excellent, incredible. So, the content is amazing. 800 people can't be wrong, and you're going to get to be a part of this with this program here in 2011. So let me start wrapping things up. Look, these are historic times. Great fortunes are made by people that solve the biggest problem in the biggest time of needs, and certainly we are in a big time of need from a historical perspective. The largest transfer of wealth is happening right now. This is a ground floor opportunity. Don't look back and say, oh, I thought about it, but I missed it. I made a ton of money doing short sales, and that was the opportunity that I saw in 2003. And it wasn't because they were easy to find. Again, it was because they were easy to sell. Well, times have changed, and the opportunity has changed, but the good news is, an even bigger opportunity has just presented itself, an opportunity that you and I can both participate in, and that's what we're talking about here. So one last time, this is the only strategy that allows you to invest in real estate without the need for credit, underwriting, approvals, inspections, repair calculations, research on properties. You don't need private money, hard money, any money at all. You don't need surveys. You don't need loan docs. All of these things are things that torpedo regular deals. You don't have to find cash buyers, just people that can't get loans. You don't have to find equity-rich sellers, just broke, motivated sellers that have no equity, and it's fast too, and you can do it from anywhere. So it's a really amazing strategy. And also, I always like to ask people, so what's the worst case scenario? And every time I look at a real estate deal, I always say, well, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst case scenario if you do the AMPS program? Let's say you only do one deal that's typically $6,000 to $12,000. Let's say it's a small deal, $5,000. You just made 500% return on your investment. And I have to say, once you get that first deal done, it's like learning how to fish. The first deal is the hardest, and then you get your second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 50th, 100th, and so on. So, in summary, many of you are going to try this, and I look forward to working with you. When I look back at my life, I don't have too many regrets, but a big one that I have is I wish I had gotten into real estate sooner. That being said, it's never too late, and I promise this will absolutely open up new doors for you. I look forward to hearing your success stories on the live calls and meeting you in person at the live event. And that's it. Let me put the program back here on the screen. Everything you see here is part of the AMPS program, $997.97 a month for all the subscription services and the REI Matcher Pro.
Phil, man, that was an exciting presentation, man. I really appreciate you sharing that information with my people today, and I can see why so many of your students are having amazing success with these AMPS deals. I encourage everyone on this webinar right now to jump off this webinar right now while all those extra territories and bonuses are being offered. You don't want to miss out on those territories. I'll be able to say that word right here in a second. You don't want to be able to miss out on those territories or those bonuses. So get off the call right now and go to you can go to my website at ampsstacy.com. That's A-M-P-S Stacy. Stacy is spelled S-T-A-C-Y. Go to ampsstacy.com to place your order online, or you can give me a call right now at 1-800-522-4626, extension 7. Again, that number is 1-800-522-4626, extension 7. You can place your order right now over the phone. We have operators standing by right this second, but we expect the phones to literally be ringing off the hook. If you don't get through to someone, please leave your name and a telephone number, and one of our operators will call you back. For fastest service and to go straight to our secure online order form, and again, that is at ampsstacy.com. That's ampsstacy.com. And let me remind you that everyone on the call, you will get instant online access to the entire AMPS system, okay, including the REI Matcher Pro system. When you order right now, you can be logged in and in the training center in as little as 10 minutes, downloading the AMPS training systems and trading modules, and you will literally be learning. You can be learning AMPS in as little as 10 minutes from now, okay? The internet has changed the way that we learn. No more waiting for books and tapes and CDs and 3-ring binders and all that crap in the mail. You can literally be logged into the training center and learning how to do these AMPS deals and learning how to make your $6,000 to $12,000 check right now within as little as 10 minutes. All you have to do is get your order in right now. Go to ampsstacy.com to place your order online before the territories and the bonuses are all gone. Or you can call my office at 1-800-522-4626. That's 1-800-522-4626. Really, AMPS is the absolute perfect strategies for today's market. And Phill students are making an absolute killing with it right now. What's so great about this strategy is that you get paid without even buying or selling anything. You're just matching buyers with sellers, and his REI Matcher platform even does that for you. So literally all you have to do is just pick up your check at the closing table and cash it, put it in your bank. It's the easiest way to make money in real estate that there is today. And remember, Phill has even networked with over 200 attorneys and closing agents and resources in all 50 states and Canada, and they'll close your AMPS deals for you. So each time they close a deal for you, you'll earn between $6,000 and $12,000, okay? And like I said at the beginning of the call, Phill has some students who are making as much as $40,000 and $50,000 a month using AMPS and doing these AMPS deals. Imagine making $40,000 and $50,000 each and every month. Imagine just on the low end making an extra $6,000 to $12,000 every month. Close your eyes and think about How would an extra $6,000 to $12,000 change your life right now if you could make it month in and month out every single month? Well, guess what? You can with these AMPS deals. You don't have to buy any houses. You don't have to sell any houses. You don't need any money to get started. It's the perfect strategy for investing in today's market, okay? We've got this perfect storm that's aligned. Everything's aligned, and Phill has been smart enough and is smart enough to realize that this is the perfect strategy, and it's working right now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have students making between $40,000 and $50,000 a month. So if you think we're in a recession, if you think that there isn't any money to be made out there, think again. Phill students are making an absolute fortune with this. Don't tell them that we're in a recession and there's no money to be made. There is plenty of money to be made out there. All you have to do is have the perfect strategy for the perfect time, and this is it. So go to ampsstacy.com right now. That's AMPSSTACY.com right now, or you can give us a call at 800-522-4626, extension 7. But again, by far and away, the fastest way to get your order in is to go to the website at ampsstacy.com. Now, I told you at the first of the call that we were going to do a Q&A session. I know we've got lots of questions that have been coming in. So, Phill, can you answer some of those questions for us now, Matt?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer some questions. I know we've been here for a little while, but let me go ahead and I see a bunch of them here. I'll go ahead and go at them. All right, the first question, can you do this anywhere, even with non-assumable loans? Yes, you can do this anywhere, at least anywhere in the 50 U.S. states. And with non-assumable loans, yes. I thought I made that clear, but just in case I didn't, let me explain it again. Most loans are not assumable, but they're all assignable. In other words, anybody can make the payment on anybody else's loan, so you can assign the mortgage payments on a loan, and as long as you do that, then the loan will be a performing loan. So yes, you can do that with any loan, anywhere, even non-assumable loans. Are there already investors doing this? Yes, I've been teaching this since 2009 extensively. We have, probably hundreds of investors in Texas. In 2010, we started teaching this nationally. Now, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I'm pretty certain that I have students that I've taught doing this in all 50 states. And the reason I'm pretty certain is, last time I looked, I couldn't find a state that there wasn't anybody in, including Alaska and North Dakota. But I guess it's possible that there's some state out there that doesn't have anybody doing this yet. But yes, there's people doing this all over the place. Next question says buyers and sellers. Are there buyers and sellers in the REI Matcher? Yeah, and there are a lot of buyers and sellers. In fact, there's literally over 6,000 buyers and sellers in the database. It's the world's largest database of owner finance deals. And, when we invented the thing, it was just an idea. It was an empty database. It was a place to put your buyers and sellers, but there were no other buyers and sellers in there to match with. And once people started using this, the power of it is, you can be talking to a seller on the phone and query the database, look in the database, and tell the seller, hey, I've got 10 matches for you. I've got people that want to buy your house tomorrow. Very, very powerful. And if you're talking to buyers, you can say, I've got houses that you can buy tomorrow. So yes, the database is already populated, and that's a very, very powerful feature. Next question, can you do this with underwater houses? Yes, I guess the best way to answer that, though, is to say, what is an underwater house? A house that's worth less than what? Than the appraised value, or the loan value, the what? And who's to say what a house is worth? I guess the reason I sound a little like I'm beating around the bush here is that what a property is worth is different for different people. In other words, when a house comes with owner financing, it's normal for that house to sell at a price higher than a home that does not come with owner financing. So can you do this with a house that is worth less than where the loan is greater than the current appraised value? Absolutely. How much above the appraised value
Well, it really depends on the buyer. The buyer's buying terms, and a buyer will pay a premium. In fact, it's normal for an owner finance buyer to pay a premium. 10 or 20% is pretty common. How much of a premium, though, is really up ultimately to the buyer. Okay, next question. Can realtors do this? Yes, heck yes, and why they're not already all doing this is totally beyond my understanding. Some of my very, very best students, I showed you some testimonials earlier from students doing this, some of my very best students have been realtors who simply figured out that it's almost impossible to make a living nowadays as a realtor. So they needed to find other ways to create streams of income for themselves, and they figured this out. So absolutely realtors can do it, and if they're not doing it, in my humble opinion, they're crazy. Next question. Let's see. So essentially what you're doing is you're wholesaling a sub-2 transaction. That's very clever, but can you really sell something that you don't own? Okay, good question. Yes, when you get a property under contract, which is one of the steps in this process, you have what's called an equitable interest in that property. And once you have it under contract and you have a legal equitable interest in the property, that gives you the ability to sell that interest. Anything you have an interest in, you can sell the interest, and that's what you're doing with a mortgage payment assignment. And essentially, that's the fundamental foundation behind all wholesaling transactions. In other words, realtors have been wholesaling properties forever, and the entire basis for the legal framework for how you can wholesale things is to have an equitable interest in it. Alrighty, what's the next question here? It says, what about the due on sales clause? Okay, well, somebody had to ask that. It's a complicated question, and I know we've been going for a while here. Look, the SAFE Act, the MARS regulations, the due on sales clause, these are all laws, rules, regulations, statutes, things like that regulate how to do these. None of these things say that this is illegal. They simply say that if you're going to do these types of transactions, you have to have the proper disclaimers, you have to have the proper people do it, you have to use the proper paperwork, the proper contracts, the proper procedures, the proper disclosures, and these are all the things that can happen, if not that you do these transactions. And the due on sales clause is just a clause that that says what the lenders can or cannot do in the event that you do a mortgage payment assignment or any of these other AMPS strategies. It's very rare. Just to extend on that, what it says is that particular clause is that if a lender chooses to, they could call a loan due on a buyer in the event that a seller sells a house subject to the existing financing. Has that ever happened? Well, we've literally seen that happen in less than 1% of the cases. It is fully disclosed. And if you think about it, it really just doesn't make sense that a lender would want to, call a loan on a performing home. In other words, they don't want the house back, they just want the loan. But if that did happen, then the property would revert back to the seller, and the seller would no longer have the option to sell the house using this strategy. And everybody, the buyer and seller, are fully made aware of that clause. Okay, is this legal everywhere? Yes, this is legal in all 50 states. And, well, actually I should add one caveat to that. Of all of the different AMPS strategies, one of the strategies, which is the AMPS rent-to-own strategy, in one state, the state of Texas, that strategy, that version, AMPS rent-to-own in Texas is functionally not legal. What does that mean? It means that you could do it, but the reporting and paperwork and restrictions are so onerous that the law firm will advise that you don't do that. But everything else in every other state is legal, and you should do it. And let me just make one other comment, because some people get freaked out about things. It's harder than you might expect to actually do something that's not legal, meaning if you're having attorneys close these transactions for you, they're not going to let you close a deal
that's not legal. They're going to make sure you paper it up legally. So sometimes when brand new investors are doing transactions and they're doing their first deal and they don't totally understand everything about it, they get all freaked out like, oh, can I really do this and everything else? As long as you've got attorneys helping you with these transactions, it's pretty hard to screw them up. Again, the attorneys are not going to let you, go out and do something. They're not going to help you do something that is in some way illegal or likely to get you into trouble. Alrighty, and then the last question here, what about alternatives? Are there alternatives? Yeah, I thought we talked a lot about that. When you close these deals, you can close them as the mortgage payment assignment, as the AMPS wraps or AMPS rent to own. You can even do them with combo plans with short sales or listings or house swaps, and all of that is covered extensively in the training. So hopefully that's going to answer everybody's questions, and I know we've been on for a long time. I appreciate everybody's time spent. I hope you found this helpful and educational, and more importantly, I hope you join us. All of the order information is on the screen, so go ahead and join us. Come to the live event, come meet with me, start claiming your territory and joining the other investors that are making a killing doing this all across the country. I look forward to hearing you on the live calls, seeing you at the live event, and hearing about your success stories. Thanks, everybody.